For weeks, I had been walking on a cloud, feeling invincible, untouchable even within the four walls of our office. It wasn't the deadlines, the meetings, or the weekend reports that thrilled me anymore. It was him. AP. Every glance, every smile that passed between us felt like a secret code only we could read. A hidden pulse that made the fluorescent-lit hallways of our office feel like the most forbidden playground. We weren't reckless at first, or at least that's what I told myself. Coffee breaks turned into shared laughs in the break room, and soon, inside jokes began to feel like ours alone. A touch on the arm when no one was watching, lingering near the printer just long enough for a brush of hands, and whispered comments in passing that made the air between us buzz with electricity. I convinced myself it was harmless, innocent even, because nothing official ever happened, right? That's how it started. By the third week, the tension had become addictive. AP's office chair was always angled just right toward mine. His phone glances were quick, but loaded with intent. And there I was caught, reading too much into every tiny move, loving every second of it. Every time he laughed at my sarcastic quip during a meeting, I felt like a teenager experiencing something entirely new, an unspoken thrill coursing through me that no deadline or annual report could ever replicate. The office itself became a playground for stolen moments. A file here, a shared printer jammed there, a purposeful, accidental brush of hands in the hallway. It was dangerous, intoxicating, and I was powerless to resist. I told myself it would never cross into real territory. After all, I had BF. Or at least, I told myself that I did. He was predictable, dependable, and boring. He never questioned my actions too closely, never caught my lingering stares when I was thinking about AP. I thought I could have it all. The stability, the relationship everyone expected, and the exhilarating risk of something forbidden at work. I was wrong. So spectacularly wrong. It started with a text as innocuous as it seemed. AP and I, laughing at something trivial in the office chat, our messages playful and coded. Only we knew the meaning behind certain emojis, the innuendos that would have gone completely over anyone else's head. It felt like owning a tiny secret universe where I was the queen and AP was a co-conspirator who made everything sparkle with forbidden promise. One message led to another, and soon we were arranging quick little adventures inside the office. Walks to the supply closet where we pretended to search for something mundane, but really lingered for just a moment longer than necessary. Glances across the conference room during meetings, a hand briefly resting over mine when retrieving documents from the shared cabinet. Every second felt like we were flirting with disaster, and I loved it. But there was tension beneath it, like a thin thread stretched taut. I could feel it, but chose to ignore it. The thrill of being caught in the act was part of the allure, part of what made me feel alive. I began to notice the way people glanced at us, the subtle whispers of curiosity in the office corridors. My colleagues never said anything outright, but their eyes followed us a little too long, and I could sense the gossip before it fully materialized. Yet, I didn't care. I was living in a bubble of my own creation, wrapped in secrecy and adrenaline. And then the crack appeared. A message, a hurried whisper, a simple note from BF, the very person I had trusted with my heart and every mundane detail of my life. I'm going to HR. I can't ignore this anymore. Just like that, the illusion shattered. The air in the office, once heavy with potential and electricity, suddenly felt thick and suffocating. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The walls seemed to close in, the fluorescent lights glaring with an almost accusatory brightness. AP noticed first, the shift in my expression, the sudden pallor, the way I gripped my phone like a lifeline. My stomach dropped, and I felt every inch of my confidence, every thrill, slip away like sand through my fingers. BF had always been careful, methodical even, but I never thought he'd be the one to ruin my fun. To him, I suppose, I was reckless, immature, and he had the authority to pull the plug on everything I had been secretly savoring. I imagined the report he would submit to HR, each word meticulously chosen, each phrase carrying the weight of judgment. I could almost see the email in my mind, concern regarding inappropriate conduct in the workplace, and with it, the panic hit me like a truck. AP reached out, his eyes wide with concern. "What happened?" he asked, voice low and cautious. I couldn't bring myself to answer immediately, my thoughts spinning in a chaotic mix of guilt, anger, and disbelief. The office, once our playground, had transformed into a cage. Every hallway, every office corner where we had laughed and flirted now felt like a trap, a constant reminder that I had miscalculated, that my actions were no longer mine to control. I was exposed, vulnerable, and humiliated, not publicly yet, but the threat of it felt worse than any actual confrontation. I tried to convince myself it wasn't that bad. HR wouldn't take it seriously. After all, nothing physical had occurred. It was just a flirtation, a joke, an office crush that had gotten out of hand. Surely, AP and I could navigate this, could manage to fall out with discretion, could smile through the awkward inquiries, and continue our little adventures with just a tiny step back. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. BF had made his move. The buzzkill had spoken, and the echoes of his decision reverberated through the office before it ever officially reached anyone else. AP's hand brushed mine briefly as we sat at our desks, a silent gesture of solidarity, a muted reassurance that despite the chaos, we weren't entirely alone. But the thrill was gone. The sense of invincibility that had fueled our adventures vanished like mist in the morning sun. Every glance around the office now carried a weight. Every hallway encounter a potential trap. My own confidence faltered, and I realized that the reckless freedom I had enjoyed so much had been an illusion, one that relied entirely on secrecy, timing, and chance. And now, those elements were gone. I caught myself daydreaming about what could have been, the spontaneous laughter in the break room, the secret smiles across the printer, the subtle brushes of our hands that had made the world outside the office irrelevant. And then reality hit me again. BF had reported me. AP looked at me with a mixture of regret and caution, aware that our playground had been exposed. The office, once a landscape of potential and excitement, had become a minefield. Each movement, each glance, each whispered comment had to be calculated, measured, and restrained. The reckless abandon that had defined our interactions was over. I realized something essential in that moment. The exhilaration I felt wasn't about AP, wasn't about the office, and wasn't about the thrill itself. It was about feeling alive, feeling noticed, feeling wanted. And now, stripped of that bubble of secrecy and adrenaline, I understood how fleeting and fragile those feelings were. The excitement had been a mirror, reflecting not just our connection, but my own desire for risk, recognition, and validation. And when that mirror cracked under the weight of consequence, I could no longer pretend.